it's Beth from Inspiring Young Learners, and welcome to another coaching video of how to help you support the ELLs in your classroom. Today I'm going to be sharing with you 4 underestimated tools to help you help your ELLs improve in reading. Let's dive right in. The first way that you can help your ELLs develop their reading skills is through incorporating read alouds every single day. Now, maybe you're reading a children's book, a picture book to them during your guided reading time or during your language arts lesson. That's perfect. That's great. Or maybe you want to just choose a chapter book that you read to the whole class for the last 5 minutes of the day, or maybe right before recess as a calming down time. That is really powerful. According to First 5, research shows that reading aloud is the single most important thing you can do to help a child prepare for reading and learning. If your kids are struggling with fluency, listening to you read aloud fluently will help them. If your kids are struggling with comprehension, listening to you read aloud and asking questions throughout that time will help them in their comprehension. Don't underestimate the power of read alouds. Now, if you are reading a chapter book, your ELLs might get lost. So how can you support them during that time? One of the things you can do is maybe have some visuals to use while you're reading the chapter book. So look ahead at that chapter and pull out, maybe print a few pictures and have them follow along with the pictures as you're reading aloud. It kind of gives them a tracking point. Another thing you can do is to use response cards. So maybe you give them a note card and on one side it says yes and on one side it says no, or agree or disagree. And as you're reading, you stop and you say, do you agree with this? Or do you think that this will happen next? And then they can hold up their sign, yes, no. And at least gives them some engagement while you're reading. Or you can always throw in the strategy I shared last week of using Think, Pair, Share. That will help break up times if you're reading long chapters and for your ELLs to not get lost in what you're reading. Kind of gives them a quick check-in to make sure that they're comprehending. So, number 1, read alouds. Don't underestimate the power of read alouds. Number 2 is to have a literacy-rich library. Last week, I was able to participate and watch a webinar by Jim Cummins, who is one of the kings of ELLs. It was so fascinating, and a big point that he drove home was the importance of having a literacy-rich library. So what does that mean? It means having a variety of books, a variety of levels, a variety of genres. Most importantly, having books that represent the students in your class. I did not think about this for a long time because all the books I had growing up looked like me. I could relate to those stories of grandparents and doing ballet class and all these different things. But our students in our class, some of them might not relate to those stories. And so I love seeing the incredible amount of diverse books that are out there now and that we can have in our classroom to make sure that all our students have some sort of representation and a way to connect the materials into the books. That's going to be a great way to help them improve in their reading is when they can connect to the books that they're reading. So another way you can also is to make sure you include some languages that your students speak. And you can give them some time. Maybe if you have some quiet reading time during the day, if you let them read in their native language a few times a week, that might help them develop a love for reading instead of being frustrated that they have to read at a lower level in English. Just a thought. All right, number 3, parent support at home. I know that you're thinking, yeah, of course, that makes sense. A strong homeschool connection is, of course, the answer. But how do we do that? Well, I'm going to share with you today a bookmark that hopefully can help a little bit. Because here's what the statistics say about the number of kids who read at home. It says only 48% of students in the U.S. are read to each day. So how can we help all parents make that a priority? And I think it's about educating them and showing them the importance of just 10 minutes. It doesn't have to be an hour, a half hour of reading, 10 to 15 minutes a day. That is going to make a huge impact with your students. And so today in the freebie, there are these bookmarks to send home with parents. and it says 5 ways to practice reading at home. And I kept in mind, if these are parents that don't speak or cannot read in English and their children are learning English, that can create a reason that they're not reading at home. And so one of the first thing it says is read aloud in your native language. And I think this is really important that we tell them and we encourage them, keep up the native language at home. It doesn't help for them to continue in English at home and then to lose their native language. The parent's job is to continue with the native language at home. And so I think if we encourage them, read in your native language aloud to your child. That is so important. Make up your own story using the picture. So if the child brings home an English book from school and the parent is not able to read it, here's some other ideas they can do. They can just talk about the vocabulary. The child can teach the parent some of the vocabulary words they're learning at school. They can ask some questions, and I give some examples here of some questions they have, and then they can encourage their child to read aloud to them, and they just listen. So whether they're cooking dinner or waiting for the bus in the morning, trying to just show them it's those little steps that make a really big difference. And to help, this bookmark is also in Spanish. So 5 maneras de practicar la lectura en casa. So you can send this home if you have students who speak Spanish, their parents speak Spanish, and hopefully this kind of gives them a little bit of guide, a little bit of confidence. Okay, I can do these small little things every day, and it makes a big difference. So these are available to you to download for free. I hope you find them really helpful to connect with your parents and to build that strong connection. Okay, the last thing, number 4, is to find stories that interest your students. I have been asking of what ways can I help you with reading, and I've heard this a lot of, my older ELLs don't like the materials at their reading level. They feel they're too babyish, and so they're disengaged. I get that happens all the time. And so how can we help our students? I'm going to be sharing more about this to come, but I wanted to quickly touch on this. Some things you can do is to have them listen to books online where they might be more engaged with the material, even if it's at a lower level. If it's more interactive or they're doing it on technology, that's really helpful. The second thing is to sometimes give them the freedom to pick out a book at the library that they're interested in. And I know I've been there when kids come up to you and they have a book that's totally out of their reading level, and then you have to say, no, you need to go stay in this section, and then it really shuts them down from loving to read. And so just think about that, of how can you help support these kids if they're picking a book that's way outside the reading level. Maybe encourage them to pick a nonfiction book, and so they can at least still look at the pictures, read the captions, pull out a few vocabulary words, learn their interests, find what interests them, and see what kind of books you can find for them. Maybe, for the boys, I'm thinking if you can find some comic books or graphic novels that are a little bit lower in the level of reading, but still look like what their friends are reading. That's really important, is to find those ways that it looks like a chapter book, even though if the level inside is a little bit lower. And I'll share some of those ideas to come of, different books I've used that have been really helpful, different websites I've used. Even with using like News ELA, that's a great way to differentiate for the language level, and it still gives them materials and articles that they're interested in, like video games or, soccer or things that really spark their interest. That's where we need to begin to help build readers and help them build a love of reading. So those are the 4 underestimated tools that you can use this week to help your ELLs improve in reading. If you're on spring break this week, I hope that you are enjoying your time, and I will be back next week with a strategy to use to help your ELLs boost their reading comprehension. So until then, bye for now.